Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we will begin. Namo Vivridha Satvaya Purushaya Mahiyase Yo Brahma Shatram Avishya Bibhartidam Swatejasa. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Dear Lord, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore, you are the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You are glorified by your own prowess, and thus you are maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahminical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Without the spread of Brahminical culture and without proper protection from the government, no social standard can be maintained properly. This is admitted in this verse by the citizens of Maharaj Prithu, who could maintain the wonderful situation of his government due to his position in pure goodness. The word Vivridha Sattvaya is significant. In the material world, there are three qualities, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. One has to be raised from the platform of ignorance to the platform of goodness by devotional service. There is no other means for elevating one from the lowest stage of life to the highest stage but the execution of devotional service. As advised in the previous chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, one can raise himself from the lowest position to the highest simply by associating with devotees and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam regularly from their mouths. Srinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Jabhadrani Vidhanoti Suritsatam. Quote, when one engages in devotional service in the first stages of hearing and chanting, the Lord, who is in everyone's heart, helps the devotee in cleansing his heart. Bhagavatam 1:2-17. In the gradual cleansing process, one is relieved of the influence of passion and ignorance and is situated on the platform of goodness. The result of association with the qualities of passion and ignorance is that one becomes lusty and greedy. But when one is elevated to the platform of goodness, he is satisfied in any condition of life and is without lust and greed. Excuse me. This mentality indicates one's situation on the platform of goodness. One has to transcend this goodness and raise himself to the pure goodness called Vivridha Sattva, or the advanced stage of goodness. In the advanced stage of goodness, one can become Krishna conscious. Therefore, Maharaj Prithu is addressed here as Vivridha Sattva, or one who is situated in the transcendental position. But Maharaj Prithu, although situated in the transcendental position of a pure devotee, came down to the position of Brahmana and Kshatriya for the benefit of human society, and thus gave protection to the entire world by his personal prowess. Although he was a king, a Kshatriya, because he was a Vaishnava, he was also a Brahmana. As a Brahmana, he could give proper instruction to the citizens, and as a Kshatriya, he could rightly give protection to all of them. Thus, the citizens of Maharaj Prithu were protected in all respects by the perfect king. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 21st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Instructions by Maharaj Prithu. Om Agana Timarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Grave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Minopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutaha Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sa Advaitam Sa Avadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Shaka Anvitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavanishwari Brishabhanu Sutudevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataribhascha Kripasindhavebhacha Patitanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation once more. Dear Lord, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore you are the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You are glorified by your own prowess, and thus you are maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahminical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya. So Srila Prabhupada is, in this purport, concluding this chapter, and a number of points that he's describing. Without the spread, the beginning of Srila Prabhupada's purport, without the spread of Brahminical culture and without proper protection from the government, no social standard can be maintained properly. So it's very clear that is the nature of the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. Arjuna was perplexed. He was unclear about his duty, but Krishna immediately brought clarity. And Arjuna was very quickly able to understand what should be done. For the Bhagavatam distinguishes reality from illusion for the benefit of all. So these three modes of material nature that Srila Prabhupada is speaking about, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are the bewildering factors of existence in the material world. And one is higher than the other. One is really bewildered by the mode of ignorance. One is slightly less bewildered, but just slightly different. One is passionately involved in the activities of the material world in the mode of passion. There's lethargy in the mode of ignorance and disinterest in what's going on, sort of, pretty much. And one's overwhelmed by ignorance and laziness and so on. And then there's the mode of goodness, which appears so illuminating, and that's the fact. From the mode of goodness we hear that it's like the springboard. Srila Prabhupada used that example. He said it's like a springboard to the spiritual platform for the mode of goodness. So one has to come to the mode of goodness, and in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that one has to go further. One has to be raised further. And this to come to the Shuddha Sattva or the Vivrita Sattva platform. Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. And that is explained in the process of devotional service in the 2nd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto. It's saying that Tadara Justamo Bhava Kamalo Badayaschaye Chite Iterena Vidyam Stitam Sattve Prasiditi. As soon as transcendental loving service is established within the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance are, which are symptomatic or they manifest through lust and greed, as we're hearing here. They're dissipated. One becomes established in the mode of goodness, or Shuddha the advanced goodness, and becomes completely happy in that state. So Bhagavatam is so wonderfully explaining everything so that we can see things as they are. When we speak to someone who's not a devotee of the Lord, and they have no idea practically that there's three guna maya bhavaya, there's the three gunas, there's the modes of nature. They just think, oh, it's just they don't think much. It's just what it is. Life's what it is. You jump into it and you stir it around and see what you can grab as you're going around in this whirlpool of material existence. But the Bhagavatam says, whoa, slow down here. Let's examine. Let's count Sankhya philosophy. Let's count what's what. And we find that if we look, there's three modes of material nature. And they're not so easy to perceive because they can be combined unlimitedly and they appear in different ways. And that is the bewildering factor of the three modes of material nature. 3 times 3 is 9 modes of nature. 9 times 9 is 81 modes of nature. 81 times so many becomes 8,400,000 species of life to experience these modes of material nature. But the Bhagavatam slows the whole thing down and helps us to see it, that actually there's 3 modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And that if we study them carefully, we'll find that one is more advanced in developed consciousness. And when we say developed consciousness, we mean consciousness that brings us back into spiritual, or closer to, gradually closer to spiritual consciousness. And why are we interested in that? Because spiritual consciousness, again, if we analyze, will take us to Brahma Sokyam, Anantam. Lord Rishabdev, we know the famous verse, he speaks to his sons and he says that this human form of life is not meant simply for sense gratification, which is available to the hogs and dogs that eat stool. Rather, one should engage in tapasya, tapo devyam putra kayena sattvam, sudyetyasmad brahma sokyam tvanantam. That happiness that we're wanting is not the fleeting happiness of the material world, which no sooner do you get it than it's gone, like a will-o'-the-wisp. But we're looking for anantam, we're looking for unlimited, unending happiness. That's what we look for. So Bhagavatam saying, okay, look over here. You've been focused so much in the 3 modes of material nature, birth after birth after birth, trying in so many different ways. Look over here, go beyond this ignorance, passion, and even goodness, and come to this spiritual platform. And there you will be able to experience that for which you're always anxious. We taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, then Krishna is explaining this desire for peace. As 266, Nasti Bhutir na yuktasya, nacha yuktasya bhavana, nacha bhava yata shantir, ashanta shokato sukham. A person who is not in transcendental consciousness can neither have a controlled mind nor steady intelligence, without which there's no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? This is Krishna. He's explaining, again, one verse. We can live our whole life from one of the verses. And there's 800 verses of Bhagavad Gita, so even one we can live. So we want happiness. If we say Hari Bol, yes, we are devotees of Krishna, we say Hari Bol. And the non-devotees will just answer, yes, yes, I want that happiness. Do you want fleeting happiness? Do you want to spend so much of your energy for a bit of fleeting happiness? They'll say, oh, no, I'd rather have lasting happiness. Okay, here we go. So this is the formula, that unless you're in spiritual consciousness, you can't have clear intelligence, because you'll be bewildered by this whole thing called the material energy, the bewildering energy of the Lord. And you can't, without that clear intelligence guided from spiritual realization, one will not be able to control the mind. The mind is restless, turbulent, very strong, and trying to control it, Arjuna says, is like trying to it wind. So it can only be done through that connection. That is called yoga, to connect to the Supreme, where we get the higher understanding of what's actually going on. So the intelligence can be clear. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekiha kuranandana. Those who are on this path are resolute, and their aim is fixed, one-pointed attention. And those who are not resolute, who are irresolute, their intelligence is bahushaka, it is many-branched. It's here and there and everywhere. Maybe I'll get something here. Maybe I should do this. Bahushaka, unlimitedly, so many interests are there for the idea to bring the happiness. So it's a lamentable condition. We hear in this section of the actual position of the real devotees of the Lord, their greatest anxiety is the suffering of others. And just as I said that, I got a little, the suffering of the material world is not a great place. Dukkha alayama shashvatam is described by Krishna. This is my external energy, and it's by nature, it is dukkha alayam. It is filled with miseries, and it is temporary. So Bhagavatam then, and the Vaishnavas, they're giving this knowledge so that the living entity can come to his higher position. Pardon me. And how is that done? Prabhupada's saying that in the previous chapters of the Bhagavatam, one can raise himself from the lowest position to the highest, Prabhupada says, simply by associating with devotees and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam regularly from their mouths. Nasta prayashu abhadrishu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utam shloki bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regularly hearing the Bhagavatam and rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is practically destroyed, and loving service unto the glorious Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Sushusho Shadadhana Sha Vasudeva Kataruchi Shanmahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtana Sevana. By rendering service to those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Yeah, so we should hear the Bhagavatam. We should render service to the devotees. And then we may say, but that's not that easy because my mind is everywhere. I'm bahushaka, everywhere. And now you're saying I have to focus on the reading and hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses. I need to be one-pointed in my determination. How is this possible? It's too difficult. It's too difficult. And naturally, some devotees may say, oh, it's not that difficult because we're trying this path and it's difficult, but not that difficult. But for the non-devotee, he's thinking, this is impossible. Like Arjuna was saying, to control the mind, to focus the intelligence, to get this elusive happiness. But then Prabhupada quotes here, Srimad Bhagavatam, Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyanta Shto Yubhadrani Vitunoti Suritsatam. That Krishna helps. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is a super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who in his features super soul is there within the heart, reciprocates with one who is taking up the process of rendering service to those devotees who are completely free from all vice. And what do those devotees tell us? They say you should read Bhagavatam, because in this age, people will get light from the Bhagavatam. That also is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. It says that Krishne Swadam Upagate Dharma Gyanadibi Saha Kalo Nasta Drisham Isha Puranarko Denotita. Puranarka, this Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna for his own abode, accompanied by knowledge, religion, etc. People who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of the age of Kali will get light from this Purana. So this is the Kali Yuga, and it's a very dark place. And people think that it's not so dark. Look at the bright lights. Look at the cities. We have created cities, and there's many bright lights. But they're only bright when it's dark, and that's the nature of the world. So those so-called bright lights of Kali Yuga, they're very prominent in the darkness. So this is the actual position that this phantasmagoric modern civilization, which seems so wonderful, is only a reflection in the darkness. What is that verse that Krishna says in the 4 seed verses? Riteritam yat pratiyata na pratiyata chatmani tadvado yato tamaha. I'm trying, forgive me, I just forgot the third, like that. Riteritam yat pratiyata na pratiyata chatmani tadvidyarat manomayam yato. Anyway, please forgive me. And it says that whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, nor is my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be very substantial, but is actually in darkness. So all of this modern idea that we can find advancement and bring ourselves happiness is simply that. It is tamasimai. So we are Jyotirgama. We're supposed to come to the light. So this can be done. It is done by the hearing of Bhagavatam and the rendering of service to the Lord's devotees, the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Krishna helps from within. So that is a great news. And one is relieved from the influence of passion and ignorance and is situated in the platform of goodness. The result of association with the qualities of passion and ignorance is that one becomes lusty and greedy. But when one is elevated to the platform of goodness, he is satisfied in any condition of life and is without lust and greed. That mentality that we've just described, this mentality indicates one's situation on the platform of goodness. One has to transcend this goodness and raise himself to the pure goodness called Vivrita Sattva, or the advanced stage of goodness. In the advanced stage of goodness, one can become Krishna conscious. And the wonderful thing we see here in the qualities of Prithu Maharaj is he's addressed as one who's situated in the transcendental position, Vivrita Sattva. And although he was in that transcendental position, Prabhupada goes on to say, of a pure devotee, he came down to the position of a Brahmana and a Kshatriya. So this is wonderful. And we have to be careful not to imitate this position. If one is a Paramahamsa Vaishnava, one is the greatest devotee of the Lord, then he can act in any position. And we saw that in the example of our Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was able to act as a Kshatriya in the sense that he provided protection for everyone within this society. And he was acting as a Brahmana. He came down to this position to act in these different ways. He was also acting as a Vaishya and a Shudra also. Yeah, Prabhupada was sweeping the floor. He was cleaning everything. And he was serving all the other persons who were not exactly serving other Vaishnavas. They were, whatever they were. He transformed the unhappy hippies into happy devotees. So Srila Prabhupada especially will mention the Brahman and Kshatriya. So that is very especially mentioned here, that Prithu Maharaj, although he was acting in this way as a Kshatriya, as a king to give protection, he was a Raja Rishi. He was a Shaktivesh avatar, specifically empowered to bring a perfect civilization to the world. But he was able to act in both ways, to give clear guidance as to what should be done, which is the duty of the Brahmanas, and then to provide that protection, to administer everything in such a way which would be beneficial for all communities of the civilization. All communities means the human communities of the Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, and all the other species of life. So the answer is given in this, in Krishna's guidance. Chatur Varnya Maya Shrishtam Gunai Kamana Vibhagasa. Krishna says this system is created by me. And if we follow this system, then we will find perfection. And if we don't, we will find imperfection. It's but it's not an easy thing. It's a great science. Yes, we saw how the Vedic culture and history became degraded due to the influence of Kali, etc. And then due to that, in the name of quote unquote religion, in the name of the Vedas, gradually it became corrupted. So much so that Lord Buddha made his appearance to take people away from the unnecessary violence of animal slaughter. So this is a big deviation from the Vedic culture. But the Lord has arranged somehow or other an emergency situation. So Lord Buddha comes to take people away from this corrupted system of so-called Vedic following, but they weren't actually following. And in the age of Kali, it's explained that one is not able to perform such yagyas. One should not have horse sacrifices and cow sacrifice and so on and so forth. So we see Lord Buddha comes and he preaches against the Vedic. He says, no need for that. And he preaches his philosophy of Sunya. But we see, again, in the course of history and according to the Bhagavatam, that is an emergency situation. And so after some time, it has to be again reestablished. So we see Ramanuja Acharya. That's a whole history, but I'm sure everyone knows like that. Ramanuja comes and presents we actually tell a lie, I'm sorry. First we have Sankaracharya comes and he again tries to establishes the authority of the Vedic literatures, but in an impersonal way. And gradually Buddhism is taken away. So it's got its purpose, but then in due course of time has to be taken away again. That took a long time. And then we have Ramanuja, then we have Madhvacharya, then we have Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, gradually going more and more towards the absolute truth, which is understood in many features. Right? Yeah, again, Bhagavatam is saying that. Vadanti tat vavidas tatvam yajganamadvayam brahmati paramatmati bhagavanati subjite. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth realize this non-dual substance as Brahman, the all-pervasive aspect of the impersonal aspect of the Lord. As Paramatma, the localized super soul, directing the wanderings of all living entities are seated as on a machine made of the material nature. That is the material body. He's directing the wanderings. And then as Bhagavan, that although he's distributing his energy in every atom of the creation, although he's there as the super soul within the heart of every living entity, he still remains the supreme personality of Godhead, undiminished in any way from all these different expansions. So this has to be, again, put in. So just as Buddhism was taken as a way to gradually take people away from the wrong path of misusing the Vedic injunctions and confusing everyone, then it was taken out again, and again we need the full picture. In a similar way, you see, I was thinking of this last night, that we see the idea for reduction of cruelty in the name of, what is it, veganism. Now, I've not studied veganism at all, but I get the basic idea is that nothing should be, the concept is that we shouldn't abuse or, other living things. So again, it's very similar to Buddhism in that sense. It's trying to reduce, but when we don't follow the instruction that's very clear by the Supreme Lord, we may concoct some idea which may be motivated in different ways, but in many times it's in a good way to try and stop suffering of the animals and insects and all the different species of life. But because it is a concocted thing, it will not bring the desired ultimate result. Yashyasti bhaktir bhagavata kinchana sarvai gunais tatra samasate sura harava bhaktasya kato mahadgunai manoratenasadi da manoratenasadi asud. I can't get the last words.
Dhayato bohi.
I'm sorry.
It is dhayato bohi after that.
Okay.
Dhayato bohi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Pardon me. Pardon me. All the good qualities of the demigods are automatically manifest in the person who has developed unalloyed devotional service to the personality of Godhead. Excuse me. On the other hand, persons who have not developed devotional service, even though they may be expert in the performance of mystic yoga, or even the maintaining one's family properly according to the varna and ashrams and so on, unless we've got the devotional service, we will be, Bhagavatam says, we will be pushed by our own mental speculations. And in this way, we will be, what is you can give me the ending of the translation. It will be by the chariot, mano rata, the chariot of the mind, by mental speculations, and we will not get the desired result. So we may, and where are the good qualities? Bhagavatam says, where are the actual good qualities? So it may be good qualities, just like you find many Buddhists, they've got many nice qualities. Yeah, they're very peaceful in many ways, and very kind and very loving. And you get many Mayavadis who appear very peaceful, kind, and loving. And you'll get many vegans, and even our devotees, many of them are taken, because we're in a very, it's a real mixed up place, the material world. So in the name of, ahimsa, not wanting to cause violence, then naturally devotees also want to not perpetuate a misuse of the cows, especially, because that is a tragedy. So, but that is not the complete answer. So it's good if we can't get ahimsa milk, but but the whole idea is very clear in the Bhagavatam. I mean, it's been discussed in many parts here, that he gave protection. Prithu Maharaj gave protection to the brahmanas and the cows. And in one of the verses leading up to this final verse of this chapter, it's explained there that that is required, that for human society, the peaceful society, we require Brahminical culture and cow protection to look after the beautiful animals, the cows. Why? And that's another whole, because they're like our mother. The cow is like our mother. We take breast milk from our mother, but we should. See, these ideas are not just some philosophical concepts, but they're practical aspects of our existential existence here in this world. We protect the bulls. Why? Because they till the ground. Oh, we don't need that. We've got tractors. We've got petroleum. We've got diesel fuel. We've got electricity. We've got all this stuff. Who needs bulls? Human society lived very peacefully and still does in certain little pockets of the world, actually utilizing the bulls to till the land in a simple way. But again, we think we know everything. So human life, kamashana indriya pritya labo jivita yavita. Jivasya tattva jignasya nartuyasya kama. Human form of life is not meant simply for sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life for self-preservation, since the human form of life is meant for inquiring into the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of society. What is that? What a statement. Human form of life is not meant for sense gratification. It is there. We have to gratify the senses. That's understood. That's to be appreciated. But that's not the goal of life, sense gratification, because why? It lasts for 60, 80, 100 years maximum in this age. So that can't be the goal. But the human form of life is meant for inquiring into the absolute truth. Who am I? How did I get in this world? And what is the plan of this world? Who has created this world? What are we to learn here? This is human form of life. Atato Brahma Jignasa. And the purpose of the king is to make sure this Brahminical understanding pervades all aspects of society, so that society can be structured in a way which will be prosperous both for this life. And prosperous doesn't mean big, big buildings, big, big this, big, big that. It means simple living. That doesn't mean, again, translate, oh, simple living, we're all going to have to suffer. You don't think you're suffering in your big, big buildings and all your modern stuff, the chaos that's created? No, we don't. That's how people respond. No, we don't. We don't think we're suffering, but you're suffering intensely, more and more. We don't see it. Pashyati na pashyati. We see it that everyone's suffering, but we don't think we're suffering. Amazing, isn't it? The bewildering potency of the Lord. But the simple living doesn't mean that we're poverty stricken. It doesn't, living simply. We should eat sumptuously, Srila Prabhupada explained very nicely in his purport. We can eat sumptuously. A beautiful Krishna prasadam and beautiful milk products. You can have ghee and butter and yogurt. Wow, ghee, fabulous, healthy. Butter, great butter. They've demonized butter. And instead you have margarine and you have this, that, and the next thing. But butter and ghee and so many beautiful milk products. And if that milk, in a God's conscious society, would be so nutritious because the cows are allowed to move and they would not eat just a monocultural grass, with 2 or 3 vitamins to keep them barely alive, but they would eat all the herbs and nutrients from the earth that Prithu Maharaj has arranged. And by digesting that milk, that's how the sadhus would live, just taking a little milk and maybe a few fruits. They could live only on milk. Why? Because it was so nutritious. And the mothers, if mothers are eating a nutrient-dense food, so to speak, in modern terms, then their breast milk is filled with nutrition for their child. And the child will grow very well. Oh boy. And what to speak of the spiritual nutrients that would be there. And Srila Prabhupada explained that this proper cow's milk is developing the finer brain tissues which are required to understand the spiritual subject matters. And we can say, oh, this is a very, what would we say, ethereal concepts. They're not ethereal, well, they are, they're very subtle. And that is the Vedic culture. And no matter what you try to introduce, no matter what ism, this ism, that ism, next ism, you will never bring civilization to the proper platform for peace, prosperity, tranquility, and spiritual advancement. This is only done. There's a nice verse. The principles of a religion, Dharman tu Shakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. They are established by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not by anyone else. So any attempt to try to bring order, unless it is connected to the will of the Supreme Lord, will be a dismal failure again and again. And Srila Prabhupada had so much confidence like that. He would explain, simply hear. And if we hear, we will get the right message. And then as we apply according to the direction of the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, we're all following the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then there will be peace and prosperity in such a civilized, cultured human society. So let me just check a time check. I can't find a clock. Here you go. Okay, so I've covered a few things and hopefully connected it in some ways to Srila Prabhupada's purport in this verse and some of the previous verses. If anyone would like to share something, a reflection on any of the topics that we've been discussing, that would be appreciated. You could unmic yourself. And I did not ask today to see anyone, but if you get a chance, if you'd like to, if it's appropriate for you, then you could, what would you do? Turn on your video. I don't, if that's allowed, I can't, I'm not sure how the technology is working, but if you can, it's really good. So if you have something, it would be nice if you, hey, Hare Krishna Prabhus, I can see. Hari Bol. It's so nice to see people. Isn't it? It's the personal world. As soon as you see someone, you go, oh, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna Maharaji. Yay, Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Nanubai and Tusta Chaitanya. Wow, what a name. Tusta Chaitanya. And Sita and Adini and Abhay Charan Prabhus. Hare Krishna. So please, any reflections, please feel free to reflect anything back. It could be, you don't have to, yeah, just anything that you heard, please reflect it back.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Such a beautiful class. You have explained the whole mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada through your morning session. Such a beautiful class. We have to start from, I don't know. But
Krishna. Start from Krishna.
But the main point is this, yeah, the association. Whatever you do, association is the main focal point where everything can be settled. Which way you want to move, association will make you steady in your advancement, in spiritual advancement. Others, as people think of, the result of association with the qualities of passion and ignorance is that one lusty and greedy. So there is two parts, whether you want to go this side, left side or right side. Choice is yours. You are in the middle. So if you follow Srila Prabhupada mission, you will sure and certain that you will achieve the goal of life. And you so nicely explain so many slokas. I was just keep writing the slokas. All the pages are full now.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you've explained nicely this left side and right side. So
That's right. Left side means what I'm saying, people who are involved in the lusty and greedy nature of their life.
yeah,
And the other side, who are away from the lust and greed by the association, by understanding what is better off from the lust and greed. That is
yes.
ignorance and passion is one side, that is left hand side. The right hand side is the goodness and pure goodness. So we are
Okay.
in the middle, yeah.
So we require unflinching faith. In text 43,
Yes.
to one who has unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Vaishnavas develops all the good qualities and keeps on that right side
Yes.
and keeps free from the lust. But I was listening to a lecture from Vaisheshika Prabhu a few months back, and he was making the point that the statement here is that one who has unflinching faith.
Yes.
So he was making the point that in life, there are many things that we have to experience, many challenges as we go through life that you would flinch. Flinching means, oh, that's dangerous,
Yeah.
So, and you might give up the right hand side. There's always something, we might think, oh, well, I'm on the right hand side and there's no problem. But hey, just see, you might be settled. That's why if we can keep our life simple and keep some good association, then we can keep on this path. But Maya's job is to test us and give us something that may cause you to flinch. Or someone insults you, someone doesn't recognize you, someone steals all your wealth, or some reversal in our life, which will possibly shake our, why has this happened to me? Oh, Krishna, I had faith in you, but now this has happened, like that. We may flinch, but despite whatever comes up, if we can keep shelter on that right hand side.
Yeah, that's the example you given, how the people think of the modern civilization. We have everything, but when you are in a public bar, you are enjoying that moment. But once you come home with all the luxuries at home, and you feel that time, oh, nothing is mine, everything is wasted. But in the other hand, with the simple life, with the connection of the nature and Mother Earth, you feel the difference. So simple life doesn't mean we are poor, but we are nourished. That's the difference.
Nice.
That's nourishment. Heartly nourishment is very, very important for
So,
our consciousness.
So it's a big challenge. I've touched on this a little bit over some classes, and it challenges me. The cows, we've tried in our society, we read the books, and anyone who ever comes to this Srimad Bhagavatam, who reads it, will ask us, well, where is your cow protection? Because it says it in all the pages, Brahminical culture and cow protection. Where are you looking after the cows and the bulls? Now, I'm guilty. I don't do very much to do this. And so I know it's a big challenge. And we have attempted in ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and we've not done so well. It's been, there's so many factors. You say, oh, just look after the cows, but you need land. You need a lot of land, or you need you've got to manage the herd size so that you don't have too many cows because you're limited to the amount of land you have, and it's quite a thing, quite a task. So the tendency has been for us to say it can't be done. And another point that I wanted to make in the class but didn't make. I was reading some of the purports in this section, and there's one purport. Srila Prabhupada says the natural enmity between one living entity and another. And it really struck me. The natural enmity. Enmity means, friction and envy. And it's very natural in the conditioned state that energy is going to be there. So when we try community living, community living means basically, it means going closer to Krishna's plan of living harmoniously, cooperatively with others.
Yes.
But then I read this, the natural enmity between loving one living entity and another. So we're trying, so it's quite a challenge. It's quite a challenge. And we see in our ISKCON society, I think recently, I think it was Kalasambhara Prabhu was saying to me maybe a year or so back, that he was inspired by the idea of the GBC to focus on unity and diversity, to embrace. And Srila Prabhupada always said this, we have to have unity and diversity. So being able to hold that appreciation of others' services, others' ways of being. Person might not work the way I work. They may not value the certain things that I want to value more, but that doesn't mean they're not serving Krishna, that they're not Krishna's devotee. So if we can gradually develop this mood of unity and diversity and appreciation, and I'm not preaching to you, by the way, I'm preaching to me, that
It's fine, Guru.
that is what that is what will bring us to the point of being able to look after all the living entities, to have bullocks, and to live simply, and to love one another and appreciate. So it could be seen as a bit phantasmagoric, a bit utopian, but we're not talking about a utopia. We're talking about trying to make progress in that direction so that we can please Krishna. Big subject, a lifetime's work. But if we can do something so that the next generation can have a chance, so that
To implement it.
that they can yes, thank you, that they can implement something. But we shouldn't leave them with everything, because they'll say, hey, you guys, you say you want us to implement it, but what did you guys do? So we've got to do our bit, and then maybe they can implement a bit, and then they do, and like that.
Yeah. It's a process.
It's
a process. You have to enter into the process, whatever the stage it is, and then contribute yourself to the process, make it is for advancement. And that's how it goes. Because you cannot do everything by yourself. You can contribute your part, and everybody contributes, and it goes on increasing.
Yeah, let's try and do that. Yes, let's see if we can be humble enough to work together. So thank you, Prabhu. Is there any other reflections that anyone wants to make? If you have, please feel free. We've got a minute or two if anyone has. Feel free to unmute. Okay, so I think we're going to finish at that point. Yep. So we'll finish there. Grantaraja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhayeva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti vaishnavbrinda ki jai. His Grace Jaya Sila Prabhu ki jai.
His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada
ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All grace to assemble devotees. Hare Krishna.